This video introduces reading documentation in User Share Doc. Developers and software package maintainers include documentation in their application's RPM distribution package. When the package is installed, files marked as documentation are recognized and moved into User Share Doc with a subdirectory of package name. Software package creators can include anything they deem helpful as a complement to their man pages, or also to supplement the info node documentation that they use. Some packages come with extensive PDF or HTML-based documentation, as we'll see. So accordingly, a useful method for browsing package documentation is to open a web browser to the user shared directory. If you were to work from a command line, working in and out of directories can be somewhat tedious, one directory at a time. You'll notice there's a lot of directories here. If I just scroll up a little bit, all of these directories that are here are directories that have been installed when the package was installed. So this means these are packages that exist on the system now. If a package was to be removed, this directory and any documentation that belongs to the package would also be deleted. So again, that does mean that these are packages that are actually here, not something that might have been deleted and removed earlier. Also, this means that if you want to look at documentation that belongs to a package that you have not yet installed, you either find that RPM and unpack it to look at the documentation as it is in the original package, or you install the package first so that you can see it here. So again, working with directories, at the command line when there are these many may not be very efficient. So let's use a browser instead. When you open up Firefox, it defaults to this welcome page, which happens to be out in User Share Doc. If we just clear off this last bit and let the browser take control of that directory, we can use it to just click and move around into directories. So using the find capability of the browser, let's look for a couple of packages. Let's start off with looking for the very secure FTP package. This package has an example directory with advice on configurations for certain types of FTP servers. As a text file, this opens immediately in a browser. To get back out of it, just hit your back button. We can go back to the main User Share Doc directory this way also. Sudo, which allows you to configure normal users to have privileged user capabilities, also has sample configuration files. Again, easy enough to display them. And when done, just come back to the main directory again. Not every package has tremendously useful information. If we take a look at the zip package, for example, this one has some files for copyright information, but then only one file that explains a little bit about the algorithm that's used in the product, and that's it. So sometimes packages have a gold mine of information, and sometimes they're a little sparse. Text files are not going to be the only type of documentation that you find out here, though. This package has a PDF that explains abstract notation. And it's a PDF, but because Firefox supports HTML5, it comes up immediately and directly in the browser without having to go to another tool. Now, if you didn't happen to be in a browser and you were working from a command line, let's grab this file name. You have already used the events command if you have worked with either PDFs or PostScript files. And let's just show that that works here. Any PDF can be displayed quickly. The nice thing about events is you can use it to print the document also. So this would allow you to browse through it Again, events also supports any PostScript documents and text files that you might run into. Some packages are going to come with HTML-based manuals, and Grub is a good example of that one. Let's come back to the main directory and look for Grub. Here's the developer's guide, and here's the standard Grub manual. You know, of course, as an HTML structure, it's perfect for a browser. Click to look at a subsection and hit the back arrow to go back up to the top. And when done, back up to the main directory. So a browser turns out to be really the best tool for looking at all forms of documentation. The other thing that you need to know about documentation is the way that it is packaged. Specifically, most of the time documentation is inside the package that the application comes with. But when the documentation is extensive or there's any other reason to segregate it, a developer or package maintainer may put it into a separate document. And there's only one way to know this, is to look for it. Since I'm going to be using the yum command, I switched over to a window that is already configured for root so that I can see everything that's out there. If you were to list all files that had doc in their name, you'll see that there are a lot of packages that segregate their documentation into a separate package. Python, for example. Python comes in quite a number of packages. That's better. And so, you know, the question would be, which of these packages should the documentation go in? Well, it would be better just to have it a separate package for the documentation itself, and there it is. You know, how would you know how it comes packaged? Using yum or other package maintenance tools like the RPM command, you would just have to look. Some of your system configuration packages, for example, system config, have a separate documentation set for particular programs. Notice the system config users program with its own documentation package. There is no standard rule to how these are packaged. It is up to the developer or the maintainer. So the best advice is to start looking around, spend time in user share doc, finding out what's available and getting comfortable with the structure of what's out there. And also, for any packages that you're working with, use yum and yum list to find out what packages are related to the software that you want to learn about. This concludes reading documentation in user share doc.